Dr. Shiva, and here I take this opportunity to introduce a renowned speaker for the session, Dr. Jai Rao. Dr. Rao is a professor at Babson College, USA. He teaches extensively in the Babson Executive Education programs. His executive teaching and consulting is in the areas of innovation, implementation of innovation initiatives within firms, corporative entrepreneurship, and customer experience innovation. His research has appeared in the Sloan Management Review, Journal of Innovative Management, the European Business Review, the European Financial Review, Cornell Hotel and Restaurant Administration Quarterlies, and others. He is the author of the book, The Discipline and Culture of Innovation. He has written several business cases on a range of topics: innovation strategy, innovation culture, leading innovation, customer service, and strategy execution. Through Babson Executive Education, he has taught for BBVA, AVLOKAN Americas, Novartis, Fresenius Medical Care, Pernod Ricard USA, Covidien, BAE Systems, USA Navy, SABIC, Citizens Bank, Merck, Mascop Corporation, Scottish Enterprise, Innovation Norway, North Atlantic Capital, EMC, GlaxoSmithKline, and others. He has taught executives and consulted for Reed Elsevier, PwC Spain, Bayer Material Science Germany, Iberdrola Spain, Massachusetts General Hospital Boston, Prime Business School Columbia, Banco Occidental Colombia, Quagra Chile, Inter-American Development Bank, Benchmark Assisted Living Boston, EMD Sereno, Forum Colombia, FitLix Pentio Spain, BFA Council France, Novartis, Lojac, Fidelity Investments, Marel Launch, Boston Scientific Corporation, and others. He was a member of the Innovation Advisory Board at Ocean Spray USA from 2010 to 2015. He currently sits on the Innovation Advisory Board of Bancolombia and on the Flavor Advisory Board of Fernmint, Switzerland. He also has a family business background and sits on the board of Himanshu, Bangalore, India. And it gives us immense pleasure to welcome you, sir, as our esteemed speaker for today's session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Saida. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Varsha, for inviting me. Firstly, it's a great pleasure and an honor to be with Jain School. I was hoping to be there in person. I was supposed to be in Bangalore today, but unfortunately, because of Omicron, I kind of canceled my trip in the last moment. So I would love to have been there and talk to you from Bangalore, and hopefully one of these days. Firstly, Dr. Roy Chand, Chancellor Roy Chand, thank you for the invitation, Dr. Singh, and also Dr. Nilkant. It's really an honor to be here with you today. And let me share my slides and see, just give me a second.
Yes, sir, you can share your screen, of course. I'll just take a minute. I also wanted to say hi to Dr. Ellen, who is here with us.
So,
yeah, and our Vice Chancellor, sir, is also there. And we also have our director here and Professor Amrit Lal Bharadwaj from Cardiff University here.
Thank you, professors, for joining this evening. It's such a pleasure to see you there. Thank you.
For me, it's a wonderful pleasure to be with Alan, because Alan hired me to come to Babson.
Yeah, and Dr. Alan, you can unmute yourself actually. Dr. Alan, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, because I think, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, I was just telling Alan hired me 27 years ago. So it's wonderful to be back together again, Alan.
You didn't know I was so farsighted, huh?
Happy New Year to everyone. Can you see my slides?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. You can go ahead, sir. Yeah.
All right. So I will be constantly looking at my chat. So please type in whatever you need and kind of just comment, questions. I want this to be dynamic. Yeah. And you may be wondering why the strange title. It'll become obvious in a few moments. All right. Please don't read the small print. All right. You know, the small print is from myself. After you get to be more than 50 years old, I forget at times where I'm going. So the small print is for myself and not for you. Yeah. I will talk and I will explain things if they're important. Yeah. For those of you who may not know Babson, by any chance, I'm not sure how many of you may know Babson or not, but we are a very small school, but we are a 100-year-old school. And we are in Boston, but we are in the shadows of these two big gorillas in our backyard called Harvard and MIT. But we are a hidden gem because many of our students go start companies. Nearly 20% of our students start companies when they graduate. After 5 years, that number goes up to 35%. And about 40% of our students are also coming from family businesses because many of the grandparents or parents send them to Babson saying, hey, you're going to be the next CEO, next president of our family business, go learn how to think like a CEO. So we, of course, pay many magazines to kind of give us rankings. I'm joking. We don't pay magazines, okay? You'll get used to my stupid humor. I apologize to the chancellor and all the esteemed people in this group. But you will see that we are ranked for 27 years by US News and World Report as #1 in the MBA program, as well as the undergraduate program for entrepreneurship, okay? And it was wonderful to listen to Dr. John talk about all the initiatives that you're having in Jane. So that's fantastic. That's for Alan and me, this is music to our ears because Alan initiated many of such programs more than 20 years ago. And I have been the beneficiary of some of those initiatives that Alan started. As I kind of roughly mentioned, all our students take entrepreneurship courses. When you're 18 years old, starting at Babson, on day one, you're put in a team, you're given $3,000 and you have to start a company. That's Babson. It's very, very kind of practitioner oriented, okay? So the agenda, very quickly, I'm going to talk about gorillas, chimps, monkeys. What is the difference between a startup and a scale-up? Yeah. What are the problems with small firms? And really understand why scale-ups are important and who creates scale-ups. And then what's the role of what we call as anchor firms in society? Yeah. So I actually, Saida was very generous. She listed out all the companies that I worked with. Most of them are gorillas, but also I do work a lot with monkeys as well. Okay. But you know who the gorillas are. I've worked with companies like Infosys. I've worked with companies like Kotak Mahindra, the big Indian gorillas as well. Yeah. If you look at the deodorant market in 2012 in India, the big gorillas, Unilever, McEnroe, Reckitt Benckiser, Beiersdorf, these were the gorillas, okay, in 2012. But then came a monkey. And of course, everybody knows Fog here. I'm positive everybody knows Fog, right? And so I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking there. But Fog went from 0 to #1 in less than 5 years, okay? Today in India, Fog is the gorilla, okay? Not the other gorillas, okay? Of course, you all know Zerodha, right? Zerodha, again, a monkey, went from 0 to nothing to #1 in less than 5 years. Okay, how do monkeys do this? Yeah. So, give an example of a monkey in the United States. Chobani was the #1 company within 5 years, but only in one category called Greek yogurt. Danone is a 100-year-old gorilla. General Mills is a 150-year-old gorilla. But in one product, Greek yogurt, Chobani became #1 in the US. Chobani was started, sorry, I don't know what happened here. Give me a second. Are you still seeing my screen, Chobani screen or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then Chobani went from 0 to #2 globally in 12 years. So how can monkeys do this? Chobani was started by an immigrant, a Turkish immigrant to the United States. He read an advertisement that the gorilla Kraft was selling this plant for $800,000. So he called a lawyer and said, $800,000, that's less than buying a house in Boston. There must be a typing mistake. So the lawyer called the gorilla Kraft and said, really? Is there a zero missing there? They said, no, it's $800,000. So he started the company with $50,000 and took a small business loan and started Chobani. 3 years later, the gorilla Kraft, they had something called a OSM. You know what an OSM is? No? I apologize to all the professors here and chancellors. It's called oh shit moment. Is that clear? So that's what the gorillas like, wow, what happened here? Okay. So, but the gorilla came back into the business 3 years later because the monkey had shown them that there's a market. So welcome to the game of gorillas, chimps, and monkeys. Okay. So every game in the world, and today if you go to Australia, Chobani is the gorilla. They have 9 categories, 30 products. So how do monkeys go from monkey to a chimpanzee to a gorilla? Every game, wherever you are, in whatever country, unless you're in North Korea or Cuba, all right? It's between gorillas, chimps, and monkeys. It's gorillas, chimps, and monkeys. Gorillas, chimps, and monkeys. Okay. In every open market, it's gorillas, chimps, and monkeys. Right. So how do you go from startups to scale up? Yeah. I want to give you some numbers just to roughly understand what is the game. We need to understand what is the game. Okay. There are about 41,000 publicly traded companies globally. All right. Everybody talks about publicly traded company. Infosys, Wipro, Kotak, all these guys, right? But you need to remember, there are 200 million registered companies globally, which means the publicly traded companies are only 0.02%. So most, I know Jane is different, but most professors globally only talk about large gorillas, which are 0.02% of the economy, of the entire world. Okay. The US has 4,000 publicly traded companies, and there are nearly 6 million registered businesses in the United States, which means it's 0.07%. So if you want to learn about a tiny part of the world, go to Harvard, Wharton. Is that clear? They will teach you about nothing. We here think at Babson, we think about the 99% of the world. Okay. So we look at how companies are born. If you look at nearly 30 years, I've been tracking this data for 30 years, the number of monkeys that are born in the US. And roughly it's been similar. But in the last 5-6 years, the number of monkeys being born has gone up to around $800,000. But last year was an anomaly. It jumped up almost 100% in the pandemic. Okay, we have never seen this data in 30 years. So the number of new business monkeys being born has just exploded. Okay, so please remember this number 800,000. It's very important. All right. At the same time, people love venture capital, angel funding, venture money. We are obsessed with it. Okay, but we need to understand the reality. Again, when monkeys exploded, venture funding exploded globally. For years, it was growing very slowly, but then in 1 year, it just shot up. So please be very careful. It may be a trend, may not be a trend. Is everyone with me? Okay. So venture funding doubled from almost 350 billion to 650 billion in 1 year. Okay. So we need to remember this number 600 billion. Or the other, for me, a better number to remember is $300 billion. Okay. So if you really understand the number of companies, number of monkeys, if you look at a 20-year period, a 15-year period, okay, the number of monkeys that get funded in the United States by venture funding is around 6,000. Is that clear? Which means, let's look at the numbers. The total global venture capital money is 600 billion, but the global GDP is 80 trillion, which means it's 0.75% of the world. Less than 1%. Is everyone with me? Okay.
Yes,
You're
sir.
all business students, so you need to understand what numbers mean and what game we are playing. Do we go to Las Vegas or do you go to Silicon Valley? Okay, because the odds are the same of winning. Is that clear? Okay, so the average number of firms receiving venture capital funding in between 2015 and 2020 is around 6,000. Out of 6 million companies that are born are existing in the US. That is 0.75%, again, less than 1%. So most of us, when we talk about venture capital, we are gambling. Is that all right? That's why I said go to Las Vegas or go to Silicon Valley. The odds are the same. But the media, the academics, the consultants, we obsess with Wall Street, Dalal Street, and venture funding. Is that all right? That's all we obsess, and that's all we teach. Not Babson, not Jane, okay? Everybody else. So let's come back to reality. Let's get down to reality. Let's understand the challenges for everybody else, the 99% of the world. What are our challenges when it comes to entrepreneurship? Is the challenge clear? Okay. Yeah, if you are a part of that 1%, please call me. I'll come and become your driver or chef or chauffeur. Is that all right? Okay. Don't read this. Don't read this picture. I have been collecting. The US collects this data. It collects how many monkeys are born, what is the size of the monkey, how much the monkeys pay, how much do the chimpanzees pay, how much do the gorillas pay, how many people they employ. They have been collecting this data for 25 years. And they give this data for free on the internet. So let me show you what this picture means. This data is converted to a picture. This is the number of employees in the company. 1 to 4 employees, 5 to 9 employees, 10 to 19 employees, 20 to 100 employees, 100 to 500 employees, more than 500 employees. Out of 6 million companies in the US, 61% of them have less than 4 employees. Okay. 0.34% of 6 million companies, or only 20,000 companies have more than 500 employees. Remember, I told you I come from a family business with 200 employees. We're already in that 1%. Even though it's a small business in India, we're already in that 1%. Okay. But then there's a problem. The number of people employed by these large gorillas is about 53%. And the number of amount we take home, the money we take home, 60% comes from the gorillas. So if you take the top 11% of the companies, they contribute to 84% of the employment in the country, 87% of the money we take home. So who creates the GDP? Who runs the GDP? Who grows the GDP are not monkeys, are not startups. Small business associations will come and brainwash you and tell you garbage because they're not a not-for-profit. Actually, they're paid for by the Small Business Medium Association. Okay. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that there is a scarcity of firms in the United States for more than 20 employees. I'm not talking 200, I'm talking of 20. Okay. Which means the US has a scale-up problem, not a startup problem. I repeat, the US has a scale-up problem and not a startup problem. Any ass can start a company, period. I repeat, any ass can start a company, but the biggest challenge is scale up. Okay. So stop obsessing with startups. Let's really focus on scale-ups. If you look at the world, most of the world doesn't scale up. Very few companies, very few countries, US, Japan, Germany, UK, where gorillas scale up. Don't read this picture, okay? If you look at the UK statistics, 2019, 96% of all the companies have less than 10 employees. I repeat, 96%. UK also has 6 million companies roughly. 96% of them less than 10 employees. And they pay very little. Spain, same problem. 90% of them have less than 10 employees. Don't read these numbers. This is Brazil, a developing country. 99% of all companies have less than 50 employees. Okay, this is data from OECD. So it's not just US, the world has a scale-up problem. Is that clear? Not just developed economies, but the world. And small firms have lots of problems. What are all the problems of the small firms? Firstly, productivity is crap. They don't use new technologies. They don't use hardware. They don't use software. They just are not very productive. Most of them employ their own families and they don't pay them well. Small firms, they invest less in worker improvement, worker skills. Innovation is not very good coming out of these small companies. Also, during downturns, they are the ones that take the biggest hit. So there is a lot of data to show that the larger firms are able to weather the economic cycles much better than the smaller companies. And it is much better to innovate from inside of a large company. There are movies about, yes, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, but they are data points, not the trend. I want to make sure we understand this. Okay. So one is, if you want to improve the GDP, if you want to improve the economy, if you want to contribute in a much more impactful manner to employment and to the take-home pay, it's the gorillas. So who creates scale-ups? What's the profile of a scale-up entrepreneur? We all understand the Bill Gates, the Mark Zuckerbergs, and the Elon Musks, and so forth, right? They all drop out of college and then go to Silicon Valley, become billionaires. Please be very careful with that story. Again, it's a story that is very convenient for the media. It's very convenient for academics. It's very convenient for the executives and for, consultants. Is that all right? So that is where we have to be down to earth and say, who are the people who know how to create scale-ups? And this is data from the US. Don't read this again. This is high growth entrepreneurs. Who are the founders of these companies? They tend to be well educated. So please don't drop out. Is that clear? Please stay in Jane. Okay. Finish your education. They do very well in high school, but they're not the brightest in college. They're not the ones who get A grades. At Babson, we have a saying: the B grade students work for the C grade students, and the A grade students become academics, like me. Is that clear? Okay. So it's usually the C grade students who go and start companies and scale up. Right? So grades are not everything. It's about being street smart. Okay. Yeah. Pass your courses. Don't worry. Okay. Right. Evaluation and rank, quizzes, exams, highly overrated. The more we actually grade you, the less creative you become. In fact, we tell our faculty, our students are amazingly good. They're amazingly creative. Don't kill their enthusiasm by giving them more exams. Okay. Right. They don't come from great wealth. Fantastic data. Because each one of us can become a scale-up entrepreneur. Okay. This is powerful. We are better educated than parents, so stay in school, build a network. And most of them don't come from family business. Again, good news. For countries like India, this is fantastic news because most of the world, the wealth is all sitting in family businesses. Okay. So you can do it. Okay. So you don't have to come from wealth. You don't have to come from family business. Okay. But there's a problem. Scale-up entrepreneurs are not young. They're not the 18-year-olds. It's not the 20-year-olds. The average age of a scale-up entrepreneur is 40. Sorry, I'm sorry about that. This is not good news for you. Okay. And what else? They have 15 years. So this data is also very clear. The likelihood of success improves tremendously if you are working in an industry for 15 years, 10 to 15 years in a large gorilla. Okay. So I tell all my undergraduate students, go work at a gorilla. Let them pay you. Learn the scale-up skills. How to put a distribution center. How do you manage a call center? How do you do sourcing from China? How do you build a new product development initiative? Learn how to get to scale. Develop skills to scale. When you work at a gorilla, you learn the skills to scale. And when you are at a gorilla, you learn all the mistakes the gorillas make. And when you work at a gorilla, you develop the network. And when you find the opportunity, you go create your company. It doesn't mean you shouldn't start tomorrow when you graduate. You can start, but very quickly bring in people who have the skills to scale. So build a team that have the skills to scale. Okay. So industry experience. And this data is not only from the United States. We are seeing this in developing countries as well. Sorry, this is in Spanish. Again, they have the country Colombia has a database of 850 scale-up entrepreneurs. Average age, 35. Very well educated. Most of them have master's degrees. And they have significant work experience working in a gorilla. So I push you, if you don't want to start, if you don't have ideas to start immediately, go work for a gorilla, get paid, learn the skills to scale. Okay. So skills to scale, not just ideas. Okay. Ideas are dime a dozen. Any ass has ideas. Okay. Okay. We put so much focus on ideas and less on skills to scale. So don't get deviated. What you need to build. You need to build skills, not just ideas. Ideas are dime a dozen. All asses have it. Okay. So and we see ecosystem building is a key part of it. What we call as anchor companies that spin off monkeys from gorillas. Silicon Valley was built out of 3 companies. HP, Shockley Labs, Intel. They created all the monkeys because these gorillas taught these monkeys how to skills to scale. In the Boston area, it was a company called Digital Equipment Corporation. Out of Digital Equipment Corporation came so many monkeys. Without Eli Lilly, Indianapolis would not have been a great city. Without Disney, Orlando would still be a swamp. Okay. Waterloo, Ontario was just a small, sleepy university town, but BlackBerry created 200 monkeys in that ecosystem. So that's why Bangalore is such an amazing ecosystem, because it has amazing gorillas. Even when I was young, when I left India 34 years ago, I remember HMT, HAL, PEL, all these gorillas existed. And that's why Bangalore is such an amazing ecosystem, because of all the gorillas. Of course, today it is Infosys, Wipro, all the other gorillas that we all know about. So great gorillas give birth to great monkeys and robust innovation ecosystems. When I go give talks, most of the time, monkeys are talking to monkeys, monkeys are talking to monkeys. No. Here you should have gorillas sitting, because the great gorillas give rise to great monkeys.